about 10 minutes into watching Babylon, the other old couple in the theater with me said very loudly, as they did for fair portions of this movie's disgusting. And I chuckled under my breath and I went, yep, that's probably right. But like not in a bad way. Because I think it is disgust. There's sex, drugs, alcohol, corruption, alligators, drugs, just like weird stuff in here. I mean, there's the infamous opening with the elephant poop is, that's all you need to know. To be like, this is what you're getting yourself into. If you're not ready for that, you should probably leave. But I think Babylon is an interesting movie because they just gave Damien Chazelle all the money and said, do whatever you want. And he spent that money as best he could. And I am so glad he did. The critics, they're gonna hate it. I mean, they don't seem like there are. It seems like it's pretty polarized, but like on the whole, it seems like people are coming around to it. And I'm one who is first watch, banger, goes hard. But some of that is they played some La La Land motifs from the score on that, and you can't expect me to not be like, go movie. He did it. I pogged. But I'm also aware that like this is just like 3 or 4 movies that are just crashed into one. It's like the ending is like, well, spoilers. I'm spoiling the entire movie from this point onward. If you want no spoilers, good movie, go watch it. But now we are in spoiler territory because most of my thoughts have to do with the ending of this movie. Okay, 3, 2, 1, spoiler time. This movie ends about 4 times, which is because it has 4 different movies in it, and I'm good. Like I like all of those movies, but I like them differing amounts. My least favorite one is probably the like Margot Robbie doing her Wolf on Wall Street, where she's just, well, she's already in that, but like where she's the big star and then she finds the drugs and she kind of just gets passed up by Hollywood and it ruins her life. She turns to the drugs, to the gambling addictions, to all the vices of the world, and then it spits her out, and she is just left to rot. Which it was one of like the good ones, but also given that this is 4 movies and it has a lot of characters to balance, the big moments for that kind of get sidelined because we have to tell 4 stories in 3 hours, and that's one less hour than we need, or not we need, we have. The second one isn't really a movie. It's just that like Damien Chazelle loves movies a lot and has a lot to say about them, where it's just like these big monologues characters go on. Like I love that. The fact that there's an Avatar game, like a 2-second Avatar game, when this is so funny to me. Especially when it is when it's like Avatar 2 is also just in theaters right now, and you can just go see that, and it's like, yeah, cinema is pretty cool. It's just so good. It's such a good thing. It's so weird. Some people are gonna hate it, and I'm like, I don't care. I love it so much. It's so funny. It's just such a great bit that there's Avatar in the movie while Avatar is being shown. But my favorite one of the monologues is like the first one where he's like, if something larger than life remain, he's just like preaching about it. And then my second is probably the one with Brad Pitt and I forget her name, the like critic lady, where she's just like, your time's done. It's over for all of us. Someone's gonna watch a movie. Like you're dead. You're gonna die. You're past your prime, but like you're never really dead. Because at some time people are gonna look at these movies in the future, and they're gonna see you, even though you were long dead. And I'm like, that's the good stuff. Oh, I love that. Oh man, it's so good. That hit, and it's very clear. Like, obvious, this was Damien Chazelle's project. Like, he just was having a blast. And you wouldn't just have a blast if you put like a 20-minute section going into this just like cave of just like whatever. He was like, yeah, let's just put like a crocodile in here. Let's have like fights to the death. Let's have like slaves. And it doesn't really like go anywhere. It's just like this is the bad guy's lair just because. And I'm like, okay, I'm down. It was weird as hell, but sure. He spent I was probably a couple of million on that one, and I said, good for you, pal. Go off, King. But the next movie is the one that probably has the least screen time, but I think would be a really interesting movie on its own, which is the trumpet player one. I think his name is Sydney. Let me look. Let me not be being misinformed. Let me go check my good old pal Letterboxd. But this one is easily, probably my favorite. Yeah, Sydney, my favorite one behind the next one we'll talk about. But they're like neck and neck. This one I think is like just really interesting because it's like he is the black trumpet player, but like the things they have him do. There's the one scene where he has to put the makeup to be like more black, and I'm like, and you, that scene hits like when you're watching him be the like internal struggle that man goes through wasn't like, mwah, chef's kiss, which is what made me sad that like there wasn't just a whole movie dedicated to that because I feel like you could very easily make a whole movie about that, and I kind of hope someone does because I think it would be really interesting. But his arc is like, it's one I was the most interested in, but I also forgot it existed multiple times, especially at the end when they're like, oh, yeah, we have to wrap his character arc up too. And I was like, oh, I forgot you were here because we see you for like, he's in every big thing, but he's not like the lead in all of them. So you kind of see him like drift. He's like drifting through the story where it's like he's at the beginning in the like orchestras or he's playing at the parties and then he's like becomes famous for the music so he can play it for all the movies and all that. And then he kind of, we don't see the like right after, we see him walk off where he's like, I'm done with movies, bye guys, you're making me compromise my identity. And then he dips out and that's like the last one we see him until his character arc is resolved. And I feel like what I wanted to see was that like after he walks off and is like, I'm done with movies because this is stupid that I have to do this, and then before the like where he ends up in the end, because I feel like there is just a lot of like potentially cool stuff. And I think it's only not my favorite because of that, where it's like he's like a lead in air quotes because he is like the protagonist of one of the stories the movie's telling, but he's not like the main protagonist basically, which is why we have Brad Pitt's movie where he is the like star past his prime one, which was my favorite partly because of Eleanor's, if I remember her name, Eleanor's speech there, where it's like he's this huge silent movie star, just the greatest, doing great, doing whatever he wants, living his best life, getting drunk, doing drugs, just being debauchery. And then the talking movies come and you're just slowly on the down. And you just kind of watch it all start to unravel. And then his friend dies, and you just see him never really recover from that. But it's not really because of his friend, it's because he's not really washed up. It's just his time has come and gone. And he cannot accept that because he's like, I'm a star. I can't just go quietly into the night. Like, I can't just sit down and be like, well, I had a good run. I'm just going to take it easy for the rest of my life when you're like 40 and you're like, I still got a whole life ahead of me. Why am I now irrelevant? And you're like, It's one that like I liked a lot, but also because the ending of it was just raw. Like, he is just, you can feel the like, man, what am I supposed to do with myself now? It's like he's got nothing left. He's washed up. He's just doing these like B movies. Nobody really cares. They're not good. He's just like, well, what? Why am I alive? And then he just bang, bang, bangs in the bathroom, and I went, whoa. But I was just like, it feels messed up to say that was the good, not the good ending, but like definitely one of the more interesting endings for his character. Where it's not like him just quietly living till he's like 90 and is like, yep, well, I had a good run there 40 years ago. But he's like, no, I gotta go at my prime. I'm not going to be sitting in this like quagmire of just gross, like, what am I supposed to do with myself kind of things. And it was like, wow, that's some good stuff. And then I read all the abuse allegations about him, and I went, oh, that's not good. Which is just comedic universal timing, but like in the worst way possible, where it's like, you're like, man, that was a great Brad Pitt performance. And then you're like, oh, he is disgusting as a human being. Like, reading the abuse stuff, I'm just like, whoa, buddy. That is vile. And that's what they say. Don't meet your heroes, and don't have heroes in general. Do not look up to people. It'll only go bad places. I've been on the internet long enough to know. Do not. Don't idolize people. Just don't. It's not worth it. They'll let you down every time. Anyways, that's not about Babylon. My like overall movie thoughts though is it's just a movie of like poor decisions basically, where it's these people want to be stars, they want to be the best, and then they just make decisions. Well, it's not poor decisions for some of them, but some of them it is like you're doing a little too many drugs, pal. You're gonna spiral out of control from that one. But it's, I guess it's not poor decisions. It's just how life can be, where it's like you never really get what you want, but you just kind of have to roll with the hand you're given. And you either say, I'm done with this hand and just end it, or you just ride out the hand and go, that's just how it be sometimes. Which is probably more for me. Like, I feel like I'm more of the latter, at least right now, where I'm like, I'm living, boys. But these are also celebrities in their time. They are famous people. They have had it all, and they don't want to give it up. Which, why would they? They had it all. They were at the top of the world, and then the world said, bye bye, time's up. And then kicked them off. But I've had this weird, not like fixation, but I've heard a lot of this, like, one of the, like, we will not go quietly into the night phrase. I keep hearing it in, like, movies and shows, and just, like, it's one of those things where it's like a pattern. It's starting to stick in my mind, and I'm like, it's a phrase I think about. And I think this is a movie where none of them did that. No one went quietly into the night. No sir. They were stars and they could not exist without being stars, so they made a big bang and went out with the boom. Even though for most of them they're blah 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 is dead at however many years they were, is like a little tiny news thing. But that's kind of how it was be. Is like, these people aren't gonna survive. They're gonna die. It's just how it's gonna happen. But they were stars. They were the big brats on the screen, and then they burned up, as many people do. And that's just how it be. But I'll end with just a little more like ruminating on the little montage where it is just clips from movies being like, cinema's rad, and I'm like, yeah, it is. Like, I've talked to a couple people who are like not super huge on it because they're like, It's a little literal, pal. You probably spent a couple million on that 2 second Avatar cameo. But like, I think it helps balance where it's like this movie loves movies, but it also like hates how they're made. Where it's like these people were just chewed up and spit out. But like at the end of the day, we all still love movies, and I think that montage is necessary to be like, movies are still pretty great, guys. Like they're still pretty cool, even if they're chewing people up. They're still an amazing thing we have. I wouldn't want any other way. I mean, I didn't have to review this movie. I just wanted to. I was like, man, what a great picture. And it definitely is interesting to see. It's interesting to see like how people cope when it's like your whole world is just rocked. You were in the limelight, the star of the show, and then all of a sudden the world just flips. And it's like, how do you navigate that? Because you don't have to. But all of them at least try to like make the switch over, and then it goes various amount of ways, and it's like, man, how do we just keep going sometimes? Where it's like, though you feel like the whole world's against you, you just can't win anymore, and then you're just like, you know what, I'm gonna keep walking. And even though all these guys like end up dead basically, like they all still kept walking as things changed. Like they tried to catch the new wave with their whole chest, and then it just didn't work. But they at least made an effort because they want to be stars. They want to be stars as long as possible. And to do that, we got to keep running. We got to keep running to the next thing. Keep moving. Because the second you stop, the second you're washed away. That made me really depressed to think about. But I don't think it's my favorite Damien Chazelle movie. But it's probably like second or third. I don't think anything will ever top La La Land. I think just like how that movie sits with like the dream of being a star and like the drive you need to like push yourself. It's just really good. But I enjoyed this a lot more than I was expecting because I had heard a lot of very bad things and I loved it. So you should see it too, but be fully advised it is sometimes a little too gross for some people, but it's got a good heart. It's got a thing it wants to say, and I'm glad it's saying it. Goodbye.